What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Will Arkansas play football in 2020? That's been the big question. We're going to really dive into that question today. We're also going to talk about Arkansas's big week in recruiting. Danny West is going to join us later. All that and more on Hog Sports Live. Before we get started, of course, I want to remind you there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. You can always tune in on Facebook Live. Be sure to follow the page if you haven't done so already. Throw us a thumbs up or an emoji or whatever if you like the content. Be sure to engage. Get your questions in now because we're going to get to those later. Also available on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell so you're notified anytime we upload a new video. And also throw us a thumbs up if you like the content. And Apple Podcasts, if you're listening there, please throw us a 5-star review if you like the show. Say something nice about it. Also available on Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. HawgSports.com is just $1 right now for your first month or 30% off for your first year. The players want to play, says Hunter Yurachek, and he's absolutely right. I mean, when you look at the activity right now on campus, you've got 300-plus student athletes. They have more baseball and soccer players here going through voluntary stuff than they've ever had in the summer. So it's pretty clear, as we kind of said last week with the players moving in, all the football players, all the football recruits have moved in except for one, may have moved in by now, but I think all but one so far and is planning to, Jaquela McGee. Their parents came in and moved them in. So the parents moved them in, kids want to play, everybody wants to play. It's just a matter of figuring out a way to make this work. Of course, we're talking about coronavirus pandemic, what else, but we got to figure out a way to make it work, a way people feel safe doing it, and continue to open up as long as it's safe. Don't overwhelm hospitals, things like that. Make sure we put the best interest of these student athletes, into this. And you also have to look beyond just the surface, like long term, And I thought Hunter Yurachek made some good points the other day, just kind of talking about how it's not just about the money, because a lot of people kind of talk about it as if the money goes like into Yurachek's pocket or something, or, to all these people. And, what they do with the money for the most part is they reinvest it into the university. They reinvest it into the experiences of the student athletes, the way Hunter Yurachek put it. So for us, football generates about $70 million of their $124 million budget. And of course, not to diminish what, offshoots of that with the community of Northwest Arkansas, the money made there. So the UA spends $41 million in salaries. And that's across 19 sports. That's not just coaches, which take up a large bulk of it, but you've also got mental health people on staff. You've got academic people on staff. Recruiting staff, which they spend $1.2 million recruiting players, which is 12th nationally. All the other things, all the bills that have to be paid, new buildings that are built, all of that stuff, that money goes into that. So it is reinvested into the lives of the student athletes, making them the best student athletes that they can be. $3.5 million of it, according to 2016, 2017, according to Forbes magazine, was spent on food, which was number one in the country. Yurachek says it's at $4 million now. So that's a lot of money on food. But I thought that was an interesting point because people do kind of present it like, it's just lining the pockets of, like athletic directors or something, but it's really going back into the university. Yurachek and Arkansas are in support of the SEC's announcement on fall scholarships. So if you don't want to play football, you're a football player on scholarship, you're not going to lose your scholarship because you don't want to play due to concerns over the coronavirus pandemic. So I think that's the right thing to do. If you want to play football, let's come up with a way to make it happen and allow you to play football. If you don't, then I don't know that you should be penalized because of that with your scholarship. I don't know that that's fair. But it seems like most people want to play. So I don't know that this is really going to make a huge impact. Yurachek also, so we spoke with Yurachek a good deal last week, and he's updated kind of how we can think, or kind of how we can expect things to go with Arkansas's Gameday protocols. I'll say this: I went to the farmers market for the first time this weekend, and the way they had it, you had a designated entrance and a designated exit. You couldn't just like walk out, and then the traffic flow all had to be going the same way. So if you went past the entrance just a little bit, you couldn't just turn around and go back. They would tell you to keep going forward. So you had to walk all the way around the square and then go out that way. So that's kind of how they've talked about, so you don't have people just kind of walking back and forth with each other. Everybody's kind of going the same direction. I guess that helps. But I thought that was pretty interesting. You'll have prepackaged food items to purchase. And again, these are all hypotheticals. There's 32,700 season ticket holders right now. They haven't sold individual game tickets. We don't know if they're even going to have fans for the games. But there's some stuff going on right now. We'll talk about that in just a second. I do think it's interesting. This is one of the things I want to talk about. When you consider like how the testing policy is going to be, okay? So what they're going to do most likely is within a 72-hour window, they're going to do the PCR swab test, which is probably the best way to do it. So within 72 hours of the game being played, they'll do that for all the players. And then they'll also probably do a rapid response test probably Friday night or Saturday morning. Okay, the good thing about the 72-hour deal is it gives coaches time to plan ahead, to make decisions on, who's going to be out and, who can play and stuff like that. So 72 hours and then probably right before the game also, which I think, is a good policy. And I would imagine other people in and around the program would be tested as well. So here's the thing with that, though. There's been some talk about, the gamemanship of college football. So say Arkansas is slated to play Ole Miss, and Ole Miss has lost a significant portion of their starting offense. Do you jump in and play that game, or is that a game that you look at rescheduling? Now, the problem with rescheduling a game like that, if you play the normal 12-game season, then you only have the one bye week to reschedule, and it's got to work out for you. It's got to work out for Ole Miss. I don't know that that's possible to say, okay, Ole Miss's starting offense is in quarantine right now because they were in close contact with this person who tested positive. We got to reschedule this game. I don't know that that's practical with a 12-game schedule. Now, with a 10-game conference-only schedule, it could make sense. And the reason it could is because you are going to have 3 weekends. You take it the buyout, you cram 10 games together, 10 consecutive weeks, and then you have 3 weekends to make up at the end of the season. And I've kind of put together how I think that could look for Arkansas if they did. Now, again, that's not what they're planning on doing right now, but it is something, if they run into a situation where they have to push the first week back, or the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have done it. So it's something to look at. Hunter Yurachek didn't sound particularly optimistic about it, but the way I think it would work is, and the way the Big Ten is doing it also, they have all the divisional games in the first half of the season. So you play your 6 divisional games first half of the season. Second half of the season, you play the 4 cross-divisional games. That way it would give you a better opportunity if you did have to cancel or reschedule stuff to determine a conference champion, a division champion, and then you could still play your championship game, hopefully. So that's why you would do that. So the way I would structure it basically is you would have some games that would remain the same in the first half of the season, but the games against divisional foes in the second half of the season, you're going to be moving those up and replacing them, in Arkansas's case, with the non-conference opponents. So the September 19th game against Mississippi State would remain the same, but October 5th against Nevada, that would be out. So in that case, you would move. I have moved just, going, and this is just a hypothetical, but LSU is the first game in the second half of the season against a divisional opponent. So you'd move that to the opening weekend of September 5th. So you go September 5th, LSU, September 12th, Auburn, at Auburn. You get LSU at home. September 12th at Auburn. September 19th at Mississippi State. That one's already there. So LSU game replaces Nevada. Auburn replaces Notre Dame. Mississippi State's already there. And then you got at Texas A&M, and they're talking about moving that game to College Station. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll still keep it in Dallas. But if they did, that's 3 straight road games. You open with LSU, and then it's at Auburn, at Mississippi State, at Texas A&M. That's pretty tough. Then you get Ole Miss, and Ole Miss would be moving up. They would be replacing Charleston Southern. Then Alabama is October 10th, where they were before. Then October 17th, you would play an SEC divisional opponent, and this slot was where you would have played LSU. But you'll play an SEC divisional opponent. The 17th and the 24th, you'll play an SEC divisional opponent, Eastern Division. So those 2 weeks, and the 24th was a bye week. So do you get some combination of South Carolina, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, or do they decide to throw Florida and Georgia at you? That would kind of stink. It's for Arkansas. October 31 is Tennessee. That game was scheduled that way anyway. That'll be in Fayetteville. And then November 7th, you would actually take Missouri from what we would expect to be November 27th, move it up to the Friday after Thanksgiving. So you'd move it from November 27th, you move it up 3 weekends to November 7th. So then I wonder when you'd play the SEC championship game. Do you play it the next weekend? Do you wait a couple of weeks? I guess you have the 3 weeks. Maybe you'd have games to reschedule. But that's kind of how it would possibly look. Maybe you split it up a little bit to where you play your divisional opponents, then you wait 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and then you play your next ones, and then you save another week at the end for who knows. But anyway, that's kind of the hypothetical. You can read that on HawgSports. You can read that breakdown. As for the games, we just kind of mentioned, some of the things that they'd be doing, but we don't know if there's going to be fans or not. Right now, I say get to a point where we can have football games and decide on the fan situation later. Maybe you just stick with the people, the 32,000 people who have bought season tickets. You've got a lot of those people in suites, in club seating, but the suites really, that makes up a large amount of the money that you bring in. So if you can get the people into their own private suites, that's not a bad thing, I don't think. But then, worry about your season ticket holders and then move on from there. A couple of interesting things to watch. So we've got NBA and Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball starts playing official games on July 23rd. So today's the 20th. So we're right around the corner from that. Not going to have fans. The NBA picks up in Orlando with limited people on July 30th. So they're in their little bubble there at Disney World. But I thought Hunter Yurchek made a good point about this too, because youth sports, NASCAR, all these things are being played, right? So NASCAR had 30,000 people at, I guess about a week ago, at the All-Star race at Bristol Motor Speedway. No, it was Wednesday. So Bristol seats 160,000. They had 30,000 fans there. That was the maximum. So that was the first, as the Sporting News called it, the first big test of U.S. fans returning to sports venues. So that's something to look at. As for youth sports, according to the Cassville Democrat on Wednesday, 2,000 people turned out for the Monet Youth, I hope I'm saying that right, I know it's a small town in Arkansas, Youth Baseball and Softball League's 2-day softball summer bash at North Park. 46 teams, 86 games, 500 athletes, 2,000 total people there. And it's not like that's the only place, because it's happening everywhere. My neighbors over here, their kid, he goes and plays baseball tournaments. Down the street, basketball, their kid plays basketball. So you've got all of these things with youth sports taking place right now where parents are in attendance. So, I think the main thing, practice social distancing when you can, wear masks. Just be cautious, be smart. Now, the problem is around the country, increased testing, but we're also seeing hospitalizations and those things go up. I do think there are some encouraging things we're seeing with, some of the treatments that are out there, and those are only going to get better. There was something about monoclonal something cocktail about like the bioengineered version of the convalescent plasma that they're using that's been successful with people, that they think they could have upwards of like 300,000 vials of that by the end of the summer, start of the fall. That's another promising treatment. The treatments are just going to get better. That's kind of what I've always looked at. Like the vaccine, great. Get a vaccine probably next year, early next year before we have it. But the treatments, make it to where this stuff stops killing people so rapidly. There's another doctor in Texas who, something with the steroid inhaler for people with asthma, that's been very promising according to him. Now, there's been not any studies on this. Even the remdesivir is technically in phase 3, which is lowering your hospitalization time from 15 to 9 days on average, so cutting it into a third. So there's some promising treatments out there right now. So as I've always kind of said, don't overwhelm the hospitals, practice social distancing, wear a mask, whether your city's mandating it or not, and whether you feel like it's a violation of your rights or something. If everybody just did it, I don't think anybody would mandate that you wear a mask. But I think it's smart to wear a mask. Okay? I think that's smart. I think that's probably something that needs to take place inside stadiums also. In Fayetteville right now, you have to wear a mask everywhere. In Arkansas, starting today, you got to wear a mask. Hunter Yurchek right now is about 50-50 on whether or not Arkansas and college football will happen. He was about 70-30 when we talked to him a little over a month ago in favor of thinking it was going to happen. Now it's about 50-50, and I think a lot of that is probably due to what we're seeing around the country with the cases going up. Ed Orgeron says he thinks they're going to play. I'll just paraphrase what he said. I'll try to do my best, Ed Orgeron. He says, yawn, 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 play football. Go Tigers. You got to listen to the Ed Orgeron song every year when football. That's how you know football's coming up, when you start listening to the Ed Orgeron song from his days at Ole Miss. What he really says is, my gut feeling is we're going to play, whether we start September 5th or a little after that, in conference, out of conference, that doesn't bother me. This is for what he told ESPN's Marty McGee. I do know this. I believe we're going to play. I'm almost certain we're going to play. So that's defending national champion head coach Ed Orgeron. Coaches all are like that. They all say it's going to happen. They all feel like it's going to play. Athletic directors a little bit more reserved. But coaches also have to have that attitude. Sam Pittman said last time we talked to him, you can't go in there thinking, well, we might play. You have to go in there thinking, we got a game September 5th. It's against Nevada. It's going to be tough. We better be prepared. No thinking about things that you can't control. And that's a very cliche thing, but it's very true. All right. Some good recruiting news over the weekend. Arkansas got a couple of commitments. We're going to bring Danny in to talk about it. So Danny, everybody knows who Danny West is by now, right? So Danny does most of our recruiting coverage for football. Best guy in the business. Been with me at HawgSports for over a decade.
Trey Biddy.
How's it going, Daniel?
It's going, man. What you know?
Oh, not much. I was just telling everybody about the commitments. I didn't really go into them. I was just going to kind of let you just dive in and talk about, what happened over the end of last week.
Yeah, it was a busy week for me. I mean, I hit the road last week, saw a bunch of big-time dudes. Mm-hmm. Got home Friday and got settled in thinking, all right, it's been a good week, good productive week. I think I'll kick back for a day or so. Yeah, no, that never works as planned. But
they got you with a Friday commitment too.
It's always
Friday night.
That was number 4 in this class, by the way. I took the time to actually look this stuff up. That was the 4th Friday commitment. Yeah. And I think we're up to 3 on Saturdays, so half the class. Anyway, that's another topic for another day. It was good for him, man. Solomon Wright, defensive tackle out of Vian, Oklahoma. I guess I ought to learn to pronounce that correctly, but not far from the state line of Arkansas. But kind of came out of left field last Friday, Trey. I was actually on my way back from picking up some food, getting some dinner. Got a call that we're about 10 minutes out from seeing this guy commit to Arkansas. So not a whole lot of time there to prep ahead and get out in front of it. But I'll tell you this, man, just watching the kids film. Have you watched him yet?
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun to watch that film.
Yeah.
You talk to people in Oklahoma and you see how they reacted on Twitter. They were really, really high on this kid, saying Arkansas got a really good one there. I know a lot of people see 6 foot, 270, and no, that's not prototypical SEC size, is it? But I did a quick study. You go back through the years, man, some of the best interior defensive linemen we've seen at Arkansas over the last 2 decades. I mean, it goes back to Keith Jackson Jr., right? Malcolm Shepard. Eventually Malcolm got up to 300 or so, but he came in as a smaller guy and played as a lighter guy for a couple of years there. DeMarcus Hodge, 6'1", Darius Philon, Tywan Johnson, his sophomore year. We've seen quite a few of them. I don't think Arkansas is ever going to be a program. I say that. Maybe they will eventually, but, I don't see them going out and getting the prototypical 6'5", 300 ready to go guys straight out of high school. Do you?
Yeah.
And beating Alabama and LSU for them.
Yeah. No, that doesn't happen a whole lot. There was a guy a few years ago that I remember they got out of LSU with Bobby Petrino, Dede.
Dede Jones.
Yeah,
yeah.
Dede Jones was 4-star, ready to go type of guy.
There.
Marcus Miller might have been considered that if he'd gotten out to camps and stuff. He went 6'5", big kid. But Warren Sapp went about 6'1", I mean, there's an argument that he's the best defensive tackle that ever played. He's up there. There I don't know. Is Aaron Donald? I don't know that he's super.
Yeah, same deal. He's very much undersized. Traditionally speaking. So
this kid goes 6 foot 270 right now. He'll be 300 before long at Arkansas. I would assume at least 285 minimum. But 124 tackles as a defensive lineman, 14 sacks as an interior guy. I mean, he definitely put up the numbers. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And at some point, you do watch the film and wonder about the competition, but you also see the explosiveness, right, and the motor and everything that got him all of those scholarship offers. I mean, this is a guy that committed to Texas Tech this past spring. And really, I mean, this guy never even tweeted out an Arkansas offer. That's how quickly this came about. So I was going through his tweets thinking, all right, did I miss something here? No, it's just one of those that they worked under the radar for quite a while, from what I hear. So that started the big weekend, Trey. And then, of course, after we got done with that one, we started hearing, hey, the night is still young, so Aaron Outley could pop at any moment. And then, of course, he decided to wait, as you predicted, Friday night.
Yeah,
so,
I did predict that, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Well, we had,
it makes sense. It gets so late, and that's, it's not about me, really, when I talk about the Friday commitments.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think a lot of kids realize you get so less eyeballs, so many fewer eyeballs on the commitment story on a Friday night.
Commit on a Monday.
Do it on a Monday. People are at work. They
get
don't
ahead of
want
that
to be
news
back
cycle.
at work.
Yep.
They're on Twitter and they're on HawgSports.com. They want to see it then. So that's one of the reasons Gabe and I had that conversation on Friday too. But anyway, Aaron Outley, obviously on Saturday, a big in-state pickup, a guy they've been working at for a long time now. How about a weekend for John Cooper, I mean, he helped get the guy out of Oklahoma and then turns around and gets Aaron Outley as his first tight end commitment this year. So I know that probably went a long way in boosting their morale, a week after losing Drayden Norwood. You follow up and get a big-time in-state guy. So I like Aaron. I saw him. He was one of the guys I saw last week, as you know. And,
there was a little bit of a scare for a while. And with Aaron, I thought this was kind of funny because Danny had gone to, Tulsa and Little Rock and, around this area too, to interview prospects. And so we had all the, the Little Rock Parkview guys. And Danny calls me and says, hey, we might need to start getting some stuff ready on Aaron Outley. So it's Friday night. I'm sitting out on the deck with the wife, and I'm like, honey, I got to go in because this video that Danny went and got may be obsolete tomorrow. So we had to kind of rush that video out. We ended up doing it Saturday morning when we released the video. But those videos are great. We'll do James Joyner later today, the 2022 running back.
Several coming.
Yeah, several coming. Yeah.
We'll see how my week
Gentry
unfolds.
Williams. I mean, Gentry Williams is a top 10 prospect in the country. and Danny got a nice interview with him. So there's a lot of those, and of course Aaron Outley as well. But Aaron has a really nice offer list. I mean, there was a while when I know Steve Wiltfong put a crystal ball pick in to him to go to Florida State, and that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. You know, you look at that offer list. I mean, it's staggering, and then you realize he is currently the lowest rated
recruit,
on Arkansas's commitment list. Now, I think from what I understood, ESPN has yet to rank him, so obviously that would greatly impact his composite, right? But you know, big guy. I'm not sure he's the most athletic or fastest tight end out there. I know he's not, but man, it's like Gabe Brooks said. You know, he's got so much size, and nowadays coaches look for size and hands. They want that combination.
Yeah, and he's got hands. And a lot of time, I mean, if you think about it, for the most part, high school tight ends, they come out about 220 to 235. Usually about the biggest would be about 235 these days. And this kid's already 255.
Yeah, he's plenty big.
He's plenty big, Danny.
He is, man. But, hey, I'll say this, too, on Parkview. It's good to see them suddenly just start piling them up a little bit.
Suddenly, I wonder what changed.
Yeah, somebody by the initials of BB.
Yeah.
Good man. We love Coach Boulding. He's been great to us, but it was cool to get to hang with him for a little bit. I want to mention, by the way, we were social distancing, wore my mask everywhere. I was a responsible sports writer last week, Trey. You'd have been proud, but had a good time visiting and standing 6 feet apart from Boulding. But, you think about Parkview, man. And I think it's been 2016. Is that when Markel Utsey and Kenyon Jackson, younger brother of Keith Jackson Jr., both of them came out in 2016. Obviously, Markel went with Missouri, and Kenyon went with Illinois. So the last time Arkansas signed anybody out of Parkview football was 2004. I want to see if you can name them. I know you know one of them.
The last time they signed somebody out of Parkview was 2004.
Yep, they got 2 of them that year.
I don't know, with Mark Winston and Jamal Anderson.
There you go.
2004. Okay.
There you go. A little history lesson out there today.
Yeah. Hey, I'll say this too, Danny. When you look at Little Rock, Central Arkansas, you've had, North Little Rock has produced well over the years.
Wonder why.
Yeah, not as much lately.
Boulding spot.
Yeah. But Joe T. Robinson has been really strong, one of the state's top producers lately. I mean, there's a lot of players.
They've been kind of carrying Central Arkansas.
There's a lot of players at the University of Arkansas that went to Joe T. Robinson now. So you've got them. Of course, Pulaski Academy is always, since Kevin Kelly's been there, they've always been a good producer of talent, one of the state's top producers. Now you got Parkview stepping up. And you look over nearby Maumelle. Look at Maumelle.
Yeah.
They got a couple of guys in the 2022 class.
Really impressive dudes. And, of course, we're talking about Andrew Chambly, an offensive lineman, and Nico Davier, defensive lineman, who actually just today picked up Penn State. I mean, this guy, he's going to be way, way up there by the time he's done. So got a chance. We've also got those videos coming this week, I'm sure. So, a couple of big-time guys there. But you hit on something there. I think it's always – and we've been waiting on this for years, Central Arkansas to just get an uptick, right? And I think we're finally seeing that. So it's been good. Hopefully we'll see that continue. But then, of course, the key is if you're Arkansas, you got to keep them here. Yeah. So that's the next step. But good to get Aaron Outley on board for the Razorbacks. And I know how strongly they felt about, just trying to get that in-state momentum going again. So I think that was a good step in the right direction. And, we've got Landon Rogers. We put out an interview with him. And, of course, got James Joyner coming, later today, Trey?
Yeah, later today.
A video. So, quite a few there at Parkview.
And I'll say just up in northwest Arkansas also, Danny, I mean, Fayetteville continues to produce. 24/7 Sports put out there. Now, this top 20 ranking, I think, is probably going to change a lot as, we get more opportunities to evaluate guys. But the top-rated player in the state right now is Satania. You have to say his name. Did I say it right?
Isaiah Satania.
Isaiah Satania.
Right there. I have said it incorrectly for months.
He's a 10,800 meter guy as a freshman and a 24-foot long jumper. So he's got some impressive track numbers. There's some other guys in the state like, James Joyner, McAdoo, who don't have any time. They don't have a verified 40 time. They don't have any track meet, 100 meter, 200 times, stuff like that. So I think when those guys get some, verified numbers, they run under 11 seconds, and run 4 or 5 range in 40, then I think you'll see those guys get bumped up to 4-star status. But right now, this is shaping up 2022 class, Danny, as one of the best classes that Arkansas has had a lot when you look top to bottom. Now, it may not have and what that remains to be seen about the star power at the top in the 2019 class, because there were some superstars really, by Arkansas standards in that 2019 class. But when you look at the depth of it, you have 9 players that are, in that 86 range in terms of, rankings 0 to 100, whatever, however you want to look at it. But in that 86 range, you'd have to go back to 2016, 2015, I think, before you find a class that has that many players rated, at least that high mid-range 3-star and above. Yeah,
and you touched on, you hit on Isaiah there, but obviously had a chance to interview his teammate, Caden Turner. He's an inside linebacker. He goes about 6'1", 215. And I'm telling you, he's walking over to me. He looked just like Brooks Ellis. I mean, he's got the Fayetteville cut off. He's built similarly, I would say, not quite as long-limbed. Just, I actually sent Brooksy the pic, and I was like, man, this guy reminds me of you. And he goes, no, he's a lot more jacked than I ever was. So I was like, yeah, good compliment for the youngster there.
Yeah.
He's a 2022. Wouldn't surprise me if at some point, they've offered, 8 now? Wouldn't shock me if he's number 9 at some point. So keep an eye on those 2 in particular. And then, of course, J.J. Hollingsworth, they offered him last week. We had a video interview with J.J., good-sized kid, man.
Defensive end out of Greenland.
Arkansas. So, yeah, it's Northwest Arkansas starting to pick it up a little bit with Greenland leading the way almost. That's a big-time kid right there.
All right, Danny. Anything else you want to add before I cut you loose?
That's it, buddy. Have a good one. We'll see y'all.
All right. Appreciate you, Danny. That's Danny West. Again, Danny handles most of our recruiting coverage and does a great job. Most of that stuff is VIP, so if you want to sign up at HawgSports.com, you need to do so right now for $1 for your first month or 30% off your first year. Things are about to start picking up because we're just a little bit away from walkthrough type workouts where they can actually have a ball. So today's the 20th, so right now they're in the mandatory workouts, so they have 8 hours a week. Coaches can be there with the players, so they have some more access with the players and stuff, but it's only 8 hours a week, limited in meetings. But on the 24th, on Friday, we're going to step into a totally different ball game where you can have walkthroughs, you can have a ball. So this will mark the first time that Sam Pittman, that Kendall Briles, any coach on campus besides Justin Stepp. Well, Justin Stepp hasn't watched Felipe Franks throw a football either, but any quarterback on campus is what I was going to say. But those coaches have not watched not only any quarterback throw a pass, but they haven't watched any receiver catch a pass. They haven't watched a running back run with the ball. They haven't done any strip drills with defensive backs and linebackers. I mean, that's a pretty monumental time for the time that we're in with the coronavirus pandemic. So the 24th, Friday, we'll start doing walkthroughs. They'll be able to throw passes and all that kind of stuff. Really try to implement the things that they were able to do in virtual meetings that they've done on the field. So it's a step in the right direction. Hopefully things continue that way. And that's the 24th when that all starts. Then, of course, fall camp starts on August 7th. Not sure what kind of availability we're going to have. Hopefully we have some availability to watch practices. I don't see why we wouldn't. Mask up, keep your social distance, watch practice. That's my hope. I could see them maybe doing press conferences outside or something, kind of restructuring things, because there's a lot of media that's going to want to be there. Obviously, media is starved. The fans are starved for content, so that means the media is starved. All right, everybody. I want to go ahead and get to your questions, but before we do that, I want to remind you, of course, there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. Always tune in on Facebook Live. If you haven't followed the page, do so now. Also available on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell, and throw us a thumbs up if you like the content. Throw us a like. Also available on Apple Podcasts. If you haven't thrown us a 5-star review, we'd, of course, love to have that from you, and available Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. All right, let's see what we got here. Josh Garr is tuned in from Emporia, Kansas. Larry Brown says, go Hogs. Mike Watts says, something happened. Where'd you go, Mike? All right, there you are. Woo Pig Suey. Can't miss that. Timothy David Long says, I'm praying for a football season this year. Go Hogs. Yeah, I think I should coin that, but it doesn't make you a bad person to pray for football, as I say. Nathan Espinoza says, what's going on, Trey? A couple of good commitments this weekend. Looks like Oklahoma has been good to the Hogs so far. Absolutely. Joshua Shiver says, Trey, in your opinion, can you rank the top 5 running backs in Arkansas football history? That might be something that would take a little bit of time for me to do, but I could probably come up with that. Let's see. I might go, in my time, Darren McFadden, Basil Shabazz. Yes, I put just Shabazz 2. Cedric Cobbs. Dearius Howard was pretty bad. I might go Dearius Howard. He's got a high ranking there. It's hard to miss out on. I got to put Peyton Hillis in there. I mean, I could keep going with Kaneko Logan, and I mean, Dennis Johnson was a good one. That's hard. I would really have to sit down and break that down before I would be, willing to just say this is my top 5. But Madre Hill was the first guy I ever played. The first game I ever played as a sophomore in high school was against Malvern, at Malvern. Madre Hill. I would put Madre in there. Madre, Darren, Shabazz. It gets tough after that. Cobbs averaged 15 yards a carry. Justin Williams says we won't get football this season, Tim. Justin, you have to stay positive. You have to talk in positive tones. If you talk like that, we're not going to have football season. We probably won't. Stay positive. Donnie A. Butts says, Woo Pig Suey. 2 great recruits for the Hogs over the weekend. Justin Williams says D-Mac, Cobbs, Hillis, and Hill. You probably have to put Michael Dyer in there too. I forgot about Michael just because he didn't play at Arkansas, but Dyer put up ridiculous numbers in high school, was a big-time recruit, was a 5-star. In your opinion, who is the most crucial commitment out of the Oklahoma group so far? Let's see. Who do I think is the most critical one? It's got to be AJ, number 1. Javion Hunt's a good one, too. Kewan Parker. Kewan's been a guy that's really helped recruit for Arkansas. They got a good group of them, really, and they've done some good work there. But I got to say AJ Green. He's a 4-star running back, number 111 ranked player in the country on 24/7 Sports. Got to go with AJ Green. Pat Graham Frick says, you flying an airplane full but can't play at least half a crowd. I know. I flew to Destin 2 weeks ago and back. I think it is interesting when you consider all the things that you can do and the things that you can't do. You could go get a facial when things started opening up phase 1, but you couldn't go to the dentist. But yeah, if you can pack an airplane full of people who voluntarily get on the airplane, could you not do that for people who want to get into a football stadium and be outside the whole time? Figure it out some kind of way, please. Dusty Hunt says, we have not played football in several years. Why start now? Ouch. Dwayne O. Wilson says, what are your thoughts on Joe Johnson continuing on his post-NBA play? I don't guess I really have any thoughts. Sorry, Dwayne. I don't, though. I hadn't really thought about it. Justin Williams says it's going to be close. LOL. Dylan Shattuck says, yes, the Hogs will be playing. Larry Bateman says, watching from Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Thanks for keeping us informed, Trey. Appreciate you, Larry. Nathan Espinoza says, if they don't play, do they use a year of eligibility? I don't think that you should. And then if you don't play, then you start running into all other kinds of problems. I do we do think that, like, as a last resort, they would play football in the spring. That would be a last resort. But if you don't get to play, then I think you should be able to keep your year of eligibility. I don't know if everybody will be able to do that. Wisconsin said with spring sports last year or earlier in the year that they wouldn't be honoring. If you're a senior and you missed out on your senior year of baseball, then you just missed it. Scott Hickman says, didn't mean to jinx us last week on asking if A&M was thinking about moving the Dallas game to an on-campus site. Heard they're looking into it now. They are. I think it's ultimately going to depend on the SEC offices. Hunter Yurachek didn't sound like enthusiastic about it, but he listened to Bjork. Donnie A. Butt says, football is in your blood. You want to play. Billy Deegan Treat says, how many days until the first game? First game is the 7th, so if you're going to make me do math, 18 days. Or 18 days. 18 days till the start of camp. First game is on the 5th of September. So, what is that, 58 days? Do you think we will try to bring in OOC out-of-conference teams that are willing to play if the others start dropping? It's possible. From what I understand right now, Nevada's still 100% on board. If football is able to be played, then they're coming. I don't know. It seems like it would be really difficult to schedule somebody that late. Unless, I guess, they ran into the same situation, then maybe you could work something out. Trey, do you think if football didn't happen this year, would this help or hurt Arkansas in terms of recruiting next year due to the fact of not seeing potential down year again? I don't know. I think getting on the field and turning things around as fast as possible would be ideal. Lauren Morris says, when does this team actually start practicing running pass plays under coach supervision? So that'll start, Lauren, on August 7th when they're able to do like OTA style stuff. They call them walkthroughs, but they'll be running around. And then, fall camp starts August 7th. But you still have to go through the acclimation period of slowly adding on pads for like 5 days, and then you're good to go, hopefully. So August 7th is technically the start of fall camp. July 24th is the start of OTA style stuff, walkthroughs. Joshua Shiver says he would swap Collins for Hillis. Collins? I don't know if did I mention a Collins? I don't know what Collins you're talking about. Alex Collins isn't from Arkansas. How will bowl games work? Yeah, that's a good question. It's possible that I think 24/7 Sports had a recommendation, just an idea, like you go expand to like 18 playoffs for the championship, and there's a good chance you could see bowl games. Who knows? I mean, that's so far away. I mean, that's December and January. So who knows? But they have to figure something out because you've got 10-game schedules going on. You have to have a winning record, or you have to win at least 6 games, theoretically. So they figure something out. I guess they go straight to APR, because that's how it is now. If they don't have enough teams to fill bowl slots, they go to APR, which team has the highest APR. That might have been 5 games. So maybe that's how they fill slots if they can't fill it because of the Pac-12 and the Big Ten schedules. Joshua Shiver says, also Nile Davis is a great running back. If he didn't get hurt, he could have been a headman candidate, either Heisman candidate, I guess what you meant. Either way, Arkansas has had some amazing backs. So I guess maybe the question was not like in-state high school backs, but backs at the University of Arkansas. So if that's the question, Darren McFadden, Alex Collins, Felix Jones, Barry Foster. I mean, I have to go kind of in my lifetime when I'm old enough to appreciate it. That 5th spot's tough. But I would go with Nile for that spot. You also got, Peyton Hillis be under consideration. Jonathan Williams was a really good one. Fred Talley. Who do you think takes over if Pittman gets the coronavirus? I would say Barry Odom. Larry Bateman says, what do the COVID numbers look like for the football team? So at last check, Larry, there have been fewer than 10 people, players, this isn't just football. This is student athletes. So this is out of the entire 300 kids that are on campus. You've had fewer than 10 people who are student athletes test positive for coronavirus. You have one active case currently. You've had 2 staffers test positive for coronavirus. So you've got one active case, and at last check, this would have been Thursday, I guess, you had 20 people in quarantine who had not tested positive but had interacted with someone who did. So you got one active case right now, 20 people in quarantine. David McDaniel says, I heard they tested over 300 with 9, including a coach. Yeah. Tested over 300, under 10, so I guess that means 9. 20 have quarantined, and 2 coaches, not 1. Isaac Riley says, fingers crossed for sports, but hoping the athletes, coaches stay healthy and safe. Absolutely. That's got to be a priority too. And I will say, I mean, for the most part, there's obviously, anecdotal, results where people who are younger have, succumbed to the virus. There's no question that's happened. For the most part, these young people are doing pretty good. That doesn't mean everybody will, but for the most part, they are. If Missouri game is moved, will it be in Columbia instead of Arrowhead? I hope they keep it in Arrowhead. That's where they said last time. Hopefully that's way off. That's November 27th. Jeff Moore says, nope, sadly, it's not going to happen. Wrong attitude, Jeff. Justin Williams says, Williams and Collins, I'm taking Raleigh. Oh, I got to mention Raleigh Williams in the mix, too. I mean, he's got to be considered. Ran for 1,300 yards 1 year. Fingers crossed they play, say Randall Files. Lauren Morris says, need to swab the kids on Thursdays. Temps, day off, and any symptoms, hold out, next man up. They can do this if they want, but it is want. I mean, they are playing lacrosse already. There's so much more applied to the situation. So, also, I mean, it's just tricky. Like, if you test positive or you come in contact with someone who tests positive, it's not you're out a week. You're out 2 weeks. You're out 14 days. Lauren Moore says, what do you think of the Pac-12 players' demands? I think it seems a little overzealous, to be honest. And I haven't looked at it too much. I just saw it this morning and kind of glanced over it, but they want 50% of the revenue. Mm-hmm. Scott Hickman says, man, you're killing me, that Ed Orgeron Brederson. Appreciate that. Aaron Wayne Moyer says, I was talking to a Nebraska season ticket holder for football, and she stated they're thinking of switching the baseball season with the football, fewer people and more distancing. What's your thoughts on the possibility due to COVID? That wouldn't be the worst thing. I mean, it would be difficult in the spring because you got to cover football, baseball, basketball. A lot of recruiting stuff happens in the spring also. I mean, that would be tough. Even with spring football, it gets to be a bit of a cluster. And you've had an actual season. Hein Lee says, thank you for encouraging others to wear a mask. No problem. Justin Williams says, if you could have any quarterback from the past for this season, who would you take? Matt Jones. I think I would take Matt Jones. I don't know. I would take Matt, I think. I would consider Ryan Mallett, Brandon Allen, Tyler Wilson, Quinn Grovey, Clint Sterner. Ed sounds like the special teams coach from Waterboy. Yep. And people like my Ed Orgeron impersonation. Thanks, Libby. NP Rich says, Woo Pig Suey from Alpha Valley, California. Will Lennox says, next commit, ? I got a couple ideas, but I don't want to spoil anything. But I think there's maybe 1, 2 coming down the road. Warren, Arkansas got all the real deal studs and got more talent on deck, and Landon Rogers got Warren bloodline in him. Is that right? Yeah, Warren's one of the state top producers. Absolutely. When we talk about the state's top producers, and that, I was just talking about Little Rock and mainly, and then kind of ventured up Northwest Arkansas as a segue into Isaiah Satanga. I think that's how you say it. But yeah, if you're going to talk about the state's top talent producers, you got to talk about Warren. Jacob Botwinick says, do you think the pandemic affects college basketball this year? I don't know. I think the NBA is a good model to look at for basketball, but Arkansas got a chance to be really good in basketball. It would stink to lose the basketball season. The only reason you lose basketball is because you lost football also, I would think. Chris Coote says, sure, I'm wanting to see the Hogs take the field this year. Patrick Germany says, Are there going to be games played and when exactly? Right now, it's on schedule. Aaron Stalling says Madre Hill, Richard Johnson, and the first game scheduled for September 5th against Nevada. Aaron Stalling says Madre Hill, yes. Richard Johnson said, do we play and how much? Yancey Long says Shabazz is the best athlete ever to come out of Arkansas. He's up there. I don't think there's any question you want to talk about it. He's got to be in the conversation. I do think that maybe the story has gotten a little bit bigger than it maybe actually was. I still think Darren McFadden's the best football player to come out of the state of Arkansas ever. Anthony Jant Tenor says Derek Russell. Anthony Jant Tenor says, we're talking about just the running backs. Chris Coote says, Will. Tyler Tober says, don't know if you listen to Tyler Wilson on Bo Mattingly's podcast, but it sounded to me like Wilson had some animosity towards Ryan Mallett. Did you ever get a sense while you were working around them? I mean, aside from just like hearing stuff here and there, but no, I wouldn't say, I don't know if there's anything like major. Will Franks be our starter this fall? Yes, I would feel pretty confident in that. Larry Jones says Jerry Eckwood was a good back. Yeah, a little bit before my time. Corey Nichols says, great back out of Little Rock, McClellan. Rip Lindsey Howell. Yeah, that was sad to hear over the weekend. Jacob Botwinick says, do you think Tusk will go to the games? I guess I could ask my mom's cousin, Keith Stokes, but that was just wondering. I do know that like some of the pageantry stuff that we're used to in college football, we're not going to see. Now, whether that means like cheerleaders, or a limited number of cheerleaders or band or, not going to see visiting band probably, but a limited number of band members. Who knows what they're going to do exactly there. I mean, if you don't have fans, do you need a band? Do you need cheerleaders if you don't have fans? All good questions to be asked. We do know that they're going to extend the player box to the 15-yard line, so they'll be extended farther. It's a little bit bigger. Big Soy from Charlottesville, Virginia says Ryan D. Summers. John Wyckoff says if they don't play, we're tied for first. That's right. Donnie A. Butts says if there's no high school football, how will we rank? How will the ranking of players work out? Well, it's gonna rankings when we look back 4 or 5 years from now at the NFL draft will be like, wow, the rankings weren't very good this year. I mean, there's some guys that we're gonna nail, but yeah, there's the possibility that it didn't happen with everybody. Eric Fox says, I saw Basil Shabazz get a bunt double in person. It was crazy. Yeah, it's rare. Garrett Bernard says, are you going to miss Big Pete Roulier? Of course. Pete was part of the team. Wish him well. Living back in eastern Arkansas. And for those who don't know, we did make a hire with Curtis Wilkinson, Curtis is in his, let's see. This is his 4th week, so he's been here 3 weeks now, doing a fantastic job, and certainly couldn't be happier with Curtis Wilkerson. So if you want to read his stuff, a lot of it's VIP, does a lot of stuff for basketball, a lot of good stuff for basketball. All right, everybody. I think we covered all the questions. I want to thank Danny West for coming on and sharing his knowledge with recruiting. Some interesting topics today with the possible return of football as we look forward to Major League Baseball, the NBA starting up, and some other live sports. So thanks for your questions. For Danny West, this has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.